We're back on Inside USA at the home of Governor Jesse Ventura. You've been living in Mexico part of the time since in the last little while. How has it changed your view of the immigration issue in the United States?
It's changed my view more than that. I think living in Mexico for over half the year now, for 3 years in a row, has given me the perspective of looking at the United States from the outside in, as opposed to the inside looking out. And you don't like what you see. The most popular t-shirt I see way down in Mexico, and I'm 900 miles across the border. I mean, we're not talking about living 30 miles from the U.S. It's a 2-day drive to get where I live. The most popular t-shirt down there is one with a picture of George Bush, and it says weapon of mass destruction. Now, the United States used to be beloved. We used to be looked upon with admiration. And having lived outside the country now, I don't see that now.
Okay, are you sure about that? Because, you know, the United States has not just started interfering in other countries' business since 2003.
I understand that.
In Central America and South America, there were some issues in Mexico, like war.
But we've just invaded a country without being asked to.
I'm not challenging the history.
We've occupied a country without being asked to. What I'm saying is, people are now afraid if they cross us, we will attack them. And people never had that feeling about the United States, I don't believe, before, that if they crossed us, we'd immediately attack them. Now we will.
I'm challenging the perspective of some Americans who, in light of how unpopular the United States has become in the last 8 years, romanticized how the United States was seen in earlier times.
Well, in earlier times, I believe we were very much looked up as the beacon of the free world. Today, they're turning my country into East Berlin. They're building fences at the borders, walls, and all this stuff. And I take a very unpopular position today. What about open borders? Why should you have to give government a reason why you come? I mean, imagine if you're say you're an affluent Mexican couple who just simply want to drive into the United States and go to Disney World. What do you think you'd have to do to be able to do that? What papers would you have to sign? How much red tape would there be? And then let's say you did it, and while you were here, you came up to me and had a job and said, you know, you've got a talent here, I like your talent, I'd like to hire you to do this. And you stayed and worked. Well, what's the matter with that? And I guess the bottom line for me was, during all the protests, I saw one plaque being held up that really resonated with me.
This is during the immigration debate in the last...
And you know what it was? The Pilgrims didn't have visas. And I thought about that, and I thought, no kidding. We came here, we killed all the Native Americans, ran them and put them onto concentration camps, for lack of a better name. I mean, the reservations. We took their land, and now we're going to require paperwork to be here?
So what has changed in this country because what you're describing is fear.
Yeah.
So where's the fear coming from?
The fear is coming from 9/11. The fear is coming from that attack, and our government making us paranoid to think that there's some how would we call it, Muslim radical hiding behind every tree waiting to blow us up. And my personal opinion is, you've got about as much chance in this country of being hit by terrorism as you do winning the Powerball. Why would you live your life
That's
in
the least
fear?
Likely lottery to win. Right?
Yes, well, it's one of the most difficult, because it covers probably 30 states or whatever, you know.
Well, here's my question for you. Do you think that the United States government had anything to do with the events of September 11th, 2001?
I don't know. But today I have my doubts, grave doubts, because it don't add up. What happened that day to me doesn't add up, and for those that want to call me crazy like they do when you don't believe what your government tells you, well, in this case, I do have some experience. I would say that I would be a demolition expert. Having been trained at the Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Team of the United States Navy, I'm a former underwater demolition team frogman. I know how to blow things up. And I find it very peculiar that those buildings could fall at the rate of gravity with no resistance at all. I find it very peculiar, the answers that I've been given by my government. I find it very peculiar that they've never produced a flight manifest showing who these people were on the plane. And I find it very strange that my president would stonewall an investigation for over 2 years. Having been the leader of the state of Minnesota, if a disaster of any type and magnitude took place here, you would immediately order an investigation. You'd want to know why it happened. You'd want to know what you could do to prevent it from ever happening again. And you'd want to know what happened. And yet we had a president they had to literally drag kicking and screaming to do any type of investigation. And then here's my other part I have grave problems with. Why was no one fired? And not only that, let's say the worst scenario is true, and this was a case of like the Reichstag fire of Germany. Well then, shouldn't many important people in this country be going to jail? Well, the United States' ego won't let that happen, will they? They're not about to put their leaders in prison, if it were proven that that were the truth.
Well, I guess my question is why is that necessary? If you believe that the Iraq War was illegal, and you believe the number of
wait a minute.
Casualties
let me
on
ask
both
you a
sides,
question.
Then it's already a war crime.
Wait, let me ask you a question. How is a war illegal?
Well, you're not allowed to invade countries by international law.
But what can they do about it? Countries get invaded all the time. International law, that's laughable. You know, that's laughable.
Well, you see, the thing is...
What, we're going to get taken to court?
Well, there are international courts. There are a number.
And
the United States
international law is going to put a U.S. person in jail?
Well,
I don't think so.
The question is, Clinton was impeached for...
cheating on his wife.
Mm-hmm. So...
that tells you right there, nothing going to happen. Because this country will impeach a president for cheating on his wife, but we won't impeach a president for lying to us and taking us to war where thousands are killed. What do you think my book's about?
You write in your book that you went to visit Fidel Castro in Cuba while you were governor of Minnesota, and you asked him about the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Yep. Well, I asked him because I've been studying the Kennedy killing for over 20 years. That happened when I was wrestling, and you'd spend hours on airplanes, and it's boring to be on an airplane every day. So I read. And so the Kennedy assassination is better mystery than anything that Tom Clancy could write or any of these great writers that write fiction. It's more intriguing. And in studying the Kennedy assassination, naturally there's multiple scenarios that come up that involve Fidel Castro. Mm-hmm. And so I just felt it would be interesting to hear his perception.
What did he say?
Well, I talked about it in the book. He said that first of all, Oswald could not make the shot. Impossible. He said it was an inside job. He told me that the Soviets at the time did not want Kennedy dead. In fact, he was very close to them. He said their quote was that, "You can talk to this man." Castro said, "I didn't want him dead. Do I look suicidal?" He said, "If I would have killed Kennedy, Cuba would have been wiped off the face of the earth. I love my country."
You don't wear a wristwatch. You don't
Not
have
anymore. I used to.
A cell phone, and you don't use computers.
No.
Why?
First of all, it's technology that I'd have to take the time to learn. I don't wanna. Second of all, to me, puts me in a position of they can keep track of me easier. I even took out the North Star thing on all my vehicles. I think
that automated emergency service.
I think people should wake up to that. That means they can track you anywhere in the country. You think it's there for your safety? I don't anymore. I think it's more a case of that way they can keep tabs on everybody. And just like when they went to the phone companies and used them to tap all our phones, well, how easy would it be to go to GM and say, "We'd like you to put these devices in all the cars you sell so that we can keep track of our citizens, especially certain ones, and what they're doing."
So what are you going to do next?
Next, I'm ordering a new 3 and 5 wood from Callaway, the new square ones, because I hit them today and I just crushed them.
That's a golf club, right?
Yeah. And so the next thing I'm doing, in fact, later today, is I'm going on the internet and I'm ordering those clubs, and hopefully they'll be here within about 10 days.
You're going to take a chance with your own personal security just for a golf club.
Because my wife's internet, not mine. Okay. My wife's on the internet.
Good luck with your golf game. Thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Quite a convincing frog you've got there.
Well, he lost his leg. I got his leg on the hook. See, he got hit before, see? You know, it's still a decent bait, and, you know, there's a reason he swims funny. You want him to look injured, because in the fish world, they mostly attack things that they feel are injured. You know, that's
How different from politics?
Politics, they attack you no matter what. It's all because of George Bush. He's the cause of all this. And you know what angers me even more about him? If you look at his life, this is the pattern. Even in private life, every business he did, he screwed it up. He left it in turmoil, and then he rides off in the sunset. And now here he is with our country. He leaves our economy in shambles. He leaves us in a war, and he's going to ride off to his retirement. You know, it makes me sick. Come on, V-Dog. Lead the way, kid.